Coming up on our newscast tonight. Final preparations are being made for the historic Inter-Korean Summit, while Wednesday's working-level meeting will set the details, including a possible live broadcast of the event. Seoul considers sending its top security and intel officials for talks in Pyongyang again. During the latest cabinet meeting, the nation's prime minister sets out a renewed set of policy goals for various ministries, while urging local governments to devise measures to avoid vacuum in administrative affairs. Inspectors will be permitted to visit the site of the alleged chemical attack in Syria on Wednesday after they were blocked by Russia at the start of the week. Washington views the delay as an effort to tamper with evidence on the ground. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Only 10 days left until the leaders of Seoul and Washington meet, an event looked to as a significant step forward in improving ties and bringing a new era of peace. President Moon Jae-in's chief of staff and chair of the Summit Preparation Committee updated the press on its progress so far. Moon Geunhye starts us off with that news conference.
If need be, South Korea's key security officials could visit Pyongyang for more high-level talks ahead of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit, now only 10 days away. That's according to South Korean President Moon Jae-in's chief of staff and chair of the Summit Preparation Committee, as President Moon looks to draw reaffirmation from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un his commitment to denuclearize during their historic meeting next Friday.
The possibility of National Intelligence Service Director Seo Hyun or Chung Eui-yong, the chief of the National Security Office, visiting Pyongyang remains an option in the course of preparing for the summit.
The two officials traveled to the North Korean capital as the South Korean president's special envoys in early March, where they met for the very first time North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who offered to meet the South Korean leader, and U.S. President Donald Trump to discuss his regime's denuclearization. The summit meeting between Moon and Kim are set for April 27th on the South Korean side of the border village of Panmunjom, while Trump has said he'll meet with Kim by early June at the latest.
We believe the nature of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit will be important in that it will be followed by a North Korea-U.S. summit and quite possibly lead to a three-way summit between South Korea, North Korea, and the United States.
Im said Seoul and Pyongyang are currently in the course of discussing the wording of a possible joint statement to be released at the end of the summit. He added it will likely focus on issues of denuclearization and peace on the Korean peninsula and an improvement in relations not only between the two Koreas, but also with other countries, including the U.S. Meanwhile, working-level officials from the two Koreas in security protocol and media coverage meet for their second meeting on the North Korean side of the border village on Panmunjom on Wednesday, during which the two sides will discuss whether they'll broadcast live the two leaders' meeting, hold a joint news conference, and whether North Korea's First Lady Ri Sol-ju will accompany her husband. Moon Geunhye, Arirang News, The Blue House.
Also, the president attended a service at a Buddhist temple on Tuesday to join in prayers for peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. Speaking at the service, he emphasized the Buddhist principle of hwajeng, meaning mutual respect and harmonization, in pushing forward inter-Korean relations.
한반도의 완전한 비핵화는 지금 우리 앞에 놓인 가장 시급한 과제이고 반드시 평화적으로 해결해야 할 과제입니다. 화정의 정신이 한반도에 실현되어 갈등과 분열이 해소되도록 간절한 원력으로 기도해 주시기 바랍니다.
He added, for sustainable peace, separated families should be able to meet each other and there should be free social, economic, cultural, and religious interactions. The Liberal leader highlighted a great transformation in world history is set to take place also with the Washington-Pyongyang summit and asked for the support of the nation and the Buddhist community. The hours feel like minutes for those involved with preparations for the Inter-Korean Summit. More talks on the event's agenda is set for Wednesday for officials from both sides to iron out the details together one last time. Cha Sang-mi sheds light on the final touches ahead of the historic meeting.
There's just 10 days to go until the historic 2018 Inter-Korean Summit. It has even been given an official slogan, Peace, a New Start. The phrase mirrors the Korean people's hope that the April 27th summit will serve as a new start for peace between the two Koreas. The summit is the first meeting between the leaders of the two Koreas in 11 years, after the 2007 summit between then South Korean President Roh Moo-hyun and Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. The upcoming summit is set to take place on the southern side of the demarcation line at the truce village of Panmunjom. President Moon Jae-in said this is a unique chance to make progress with North Korea, but cautioned against moving too quickly.
한 번에 모든 문제를 다 해결하겠다는 지나친 의욕으로 접근하기보다는 이번 남북 정상회담을 계기로 오랜 기간 단절되었던 남북 관계를 복원하고 평화와 번영의 한반도로 나아가는 튼튼한 지짐돌을 놓는다는 생각으로 임해주기 바랍니다.
Some 2,500 local and foreign reporters will cover the historic Inter-Korean Summit at a large-scale press center that's being set up at the Korea International Exhibition Center in Goyang, 38 kilometers from Panmunjom, as well as a smaller press room just 50 meters away from the Peace House in Panmunjom. The agenda of the summit will include a denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, building peace and improving inter-Korean relations. There is some expectation that the Inter-Korean Summit will culminate in an April 27th agreement and that it could be a starting point for the U.S.-North Korea Summit in May. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Seoul's Prime Minister highlighted the need to thoroughly manage key risks facing the country in the second year of the Moon administration. And with the June elections quickly approaching and key posts up for grabs, Lee Na-kyun also called on local governments to prevent a vacuum in administrative affairs. Kim Min-ji shares with us his remarks.
The Korean government is urging officials to carefully manage the various risks the nation is facing at home and abroad to make sure they don't get out of hand. At a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun said that the government has set out specific areas that need to be watched and managed by relevant ministries during the second year of the Moon Jae-in administration. Last year, when the Moon administration began, it set out 50 such areas. The Prime Minister cited, for instance, the recent waste chaos in the country, where recycling collectors refused to take plastic bags and plastic bottles after China decided to stop importing waste from other countries. He said it's an example of what happens when action is not taken at the right time.
China made its decision after we set our policy risks. It would have been good if we had then added the waste issue to our list and taken care of it. At the time, we were unable to assess what impact it would have on us. It's a globalized era now, and it's not just economic decisions that have an impact locally. Natural or social disasters can affect us too. Each ministry needs to thoroughly study these external factors.
And with local elections now less than 2 months away, the Prime Minister called on local governments to come up with measures to avoid a vacuum in administrative affairs when positions change hands. He said there are concerns that important policies or projects could be cancelled or put on hold until after the elections.
Local governments mainly carry out work that's directly related to people's lives. So if there is a snag in operations, the damage done is to the people's livelihoods. Especially when it comes to jobs policies or support for regions hit by corporate restructuring, things that need to be handled quickly, the blow will be even greater.
The Prime Minister called on relevant ministries to keep close tabs on local governments so they can smoothly carry out important policies and prevent any operational slip-ups. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Police have charged Korean Air executive Cho Hyun-min for the so-called bottle rage fiasco. The incident reignited the public's anger over tantrum and abusive behavior at professional setting by entitled children of major companies and how they went unpunished. Kan Young-woo gets us up to speed with the developments.
Police on Tuesday officially charged Korean Air executive and heiress Cho Hyun-min over the so-called bottle rage incident, filing a request for her to be banned from leaving the country. According to the police, witnesses said that Cho threw water towards several people during a business meeting between Korean Air and an advertising company. And in another incident involving Cho Hyun-min, Transport Ministry officials have said that they plan to order Korean Air and its subsidiary Geunhye to probe how Cho was registered as an executive at Geunhye under her American name from 2010 to 2016. South Korea's current Aviation Act forbids people who are not Korean nationals from becoming a registered executive at a national airline. The ministry has the right to cancel the certificate of any airline that violates the act. Last week, Cho made headlines for allegedly throwing a bottle of water at an advertising firm manager in a meeting in March. She denies throwing the bottle at the man, but admits that she did push him and has apologized for what she called her foolish behavior. Korean Air officials said Monday that Cho has been removed from her duties until police finish investigating the incident. A petition launched last Friday on the website of the presidential office has so far been signed by more than 68,000 Koreans, demanding that the airline remove the word Korean from its name and stop using a Korean national symbol as its logo, saying the owner's behavior degrades the country and the company. Foreign news outlets have reported the incident by explaining the concept of 갑질, the unfortunate cultural practice of some executives in Korea who abuse subordinates and contractors. Kang-young, Arirang News.
Park Geun-hye was set to go on trial again, this time for allegedly intervening illegally in the nomination of candidates for her former political party. But as in her last trial, the disgraced leader refused to attend, so the hearing has been postponed to Thursday. The ex-president is accused of ordering her senior political secretary at the time, Hyun Gi-hwan, to arrange for her allies to be nominated by the Saenuri party in the 2016 parliamentary election. But according to her lawyers, she gave no such orders. Earlier this month, Park Geun-hye was sentenced to 24 years behind bars. If the impeached president does not attend the rescheduled hearing on Thursday, it's possible for her to be tried in absentia. On Monday, Financial Supervisory Service Governor Kim Ki-sik offered to resign from his post after the National Election Commission announced the former lawmaker violated election law. The presidential office announced that it respects the watchdog's decision and have accepted his resignation. The NEC found illegality in Kim's actions at the end of his term as lawmaker when he made a donation of more than $45,000 to an association of lawmakers which he belonged to. The FSS chief was also under fire after it was revealed that 3 overseas trips made during his time in office were funded by financial and research institutions under the oversight of his Parliamentary Financial Committee. Elsewhere around the world, a team of experts have been granted access to the site in the Syrian town of Douma, where an alleged chemical attack took more than 40 lives earlier this month. While there were attempts by Russia to delay the process, they've been given the green light to start inspections on Wednesday local time. Cho Hyun-min has the latest.
Russian authorities say a team of inspectors sent by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, also known as OPCW, will visit the site of the attack on Wednesday. The experts would be entering the site 11 days after the suspected poison gas attack killed at least 40 and injured more than 100 people on April 7th. They will be looking to see whether any chemical weapons were actually used. An OPCW official said the team arrived in Damascus over the weekend, but they were denied access to the site by Russian and Syrian officials who told them that there were pending security issues to be resolved before they could enter. The U.S. envoy to the OPCW, Kenneth Ward, told Reuters that there are concerns about the inspections being delayed, saying that evidence of the chemical attack might have already been tampered with by Moscow. Russia has denied that. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow has not tampered with the site and that there was no chemical attack in the first place. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov also added that Russia does not intend to hinder the probe. He called America's recent missile strikes on Syrian government facilities illegal and suggested they may have slowed down the investigation. Washington carried out massive airstrikes on 3 alleged chemical weapons facilities in Syria along with Britain and France this past Saturday and said they would launch more missiles if Damascus uses chemical weapons again. Cho Hyun-min, Arirang News.
Over in Florida, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to play host to his Japanese counterpart. For Shinzo Abe, who faces a laundry list of damaging issues at home, the 2-day meeting is looked to as a chance to score points by getting some solid assurances from the American leader on trade matters and North Korea. Lee Ji-won explains further.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will be visiting the U.S. for 4 days starting Tuesday, where he will hold a 2-day summit with President Trump on North Korea, bilateral trade, and more. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders told reporters on Monday that the summit will be centered primarily on preparation for talks with North Korea, as well as economic issues. Like Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono in his talks with his South Korean and Chinese counterparts recently, Abe is expected to press President Trump to bring up the topic of Japanese abductees in North Korea when he meets with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And while Sanders did not specify if trade includes talks on rejoining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a free trade agreement between 11 Pacific Rim countries, there's speculation Abe will try to persuade Trump to follow through on his recent comments about rejoining if the conditions are right for the U.S. Abe is also expected to urge Trump to exempt Japan from Washington's plan to impose hefty tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum. The meeting provides Abe an important opportunity as he's in dire need of a policy win as he faces challenges abroad and protests at home. Having maintained a hardline stance on Pyongyang, Japan was caught on the back foot with the upcoming North Korean summits and the rapid diplomatic developments on the Korean peninsula. Japan has since been making efforts not to be left out of the negotiations. Abe is also reeling from a cronyism scandal that has caused his approval rating to plunge to historic lows. Abe will be staying at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort for the second time, holding summit talks on Tuesday and Wednesday, and playing at least one round of golf with the U.S. leader. 이지원, Arirang News.
Back here, Indonesian residents and civic groups in Seongju have been clashing with the military over THAAD. The nation's defense ministry is stressing that it's willing to resolve the issue through dialogue. However, according to our Park Geun-hye, if such an approach doesn't yield results, other options could be considered as much needed work on the site cannot be delayed forever.
Some locals in Seongju County, Gyeongsangbuk-do Province have been demonstrating for months against the government's construction of the THAAD anti-missile base, but the Defense Ministry said again Tuesday that it cannot keep delaying the installation of basic sanitary facilities, which it says are urgently needed.
We will do our best to persuade local residents, but because the troops stationed at the base are living in very poor conditions, we cannot wait forever. Therefore, while we will do our best to solve the matter through dialogue, we will have no choice but to take other measures once our options are exhausted.
However, the ministry declined to give specific examples of what those measures might be. Last week, the government attempted to bring construction materials to the THAAD base, but they were blocked by local residents and civic groups who have been illegally occupying the road to the site for the past several months. After a 90-minute clash, the government and representatives of the locals decided to resolve the matter through negotiations, and as of Tuesday afternoon, those talks are still ongoing.
We are trying to resolve the matter through dialogue with local residents as far as we possibly can. It might seem like it's going slowly, but we are doing our best in accordance with procedures and plans.
Currently, some 400 soldiers from both South Korea and the U.S. have been stationed at the U.S. Missile Defense System base for the past several months. They deployed 2 radars and 2 launching pads in March and April last year, and an additional 4 launchers in September. The Defense Ministry said what's urgent now is basic sanitary facilities for those troops, not work related to the anti-missile defense system itself. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And the diplomatic row over that defense upgrade dealt a devastating blow to the local tourism industry, mainly due to Beijing's visible retaliatory measures causing the number of Chinese visitors to South Korea to plummet last year. Thankfully, recent data shows with a thaw in relations, we're seeing a gradual return to normalcy. Kim Hae-sung breaks down the uplifting digits for us.
For the first time in more than a year, the number of Chinese travelers visiting Korea topped the 400,000 mark in March. The Ministry of Justice said Tuesday more than 427,000 Chinese visitors came to Korea last month, up 13% on year and up 16.5% from the previous month.
This rebound comes after the diplomatic row between Seoul and Beijing last year over South Korea's deployment of U.S. missile defense system THAAD led to a sharp fall in the number of Chinese tourists to Korea. After Beijing's ban on group tours to Korea in March 2017, the number of Chinese visitors halved from 614,000 in February 2017 to 378,000 in March. Chinese tourists usually account for around half of all foreign visitors coming to Korea annually. And according to Hyundai Research Institute, Korea's tourism sector suffered over $6.5 billion of damage last year due to China's travel ban. Seoul and Beijing agreed to normalize bilateral relations in October, a thaw in relations following the summit between the two countries' leaders in December. The Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and the Chinese Lunar New Year holiday is believed to have boosted the number of Chinese visitors to Korea. Backed by growing numbers of Chinese visitors, the total number of foreign visitors to Korea went up near 30% on month, hitting over 1.3 million people in March. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Turning to the world of sports now, the Taeguk Warriors did it again. South Korea's female footballers earned their ticket for next year's World Cup in France. They made the cut for the global event by finishing 5th in the AFC tournament. Jong-un has the details.
The South Korean women's national football team has qualified for the 2019 FIFA World Cup after beating the Philippines 5-0 on Monday in the 5th-place match at the AFC Women's Asian Cup in Jordan. It's the third time the women's team, currently ranked 16th in the world, has reached the World Cup after competing in the 2003 tournament and in the 2015 in Canada, where they reached the round of 16. Australia, China, Japan, and Thailand also qualified for the World Cup through the Asian Cup tournament. They will be among the 24 nations competing in the next year's tournament, which will be hosted by France. The FIFA Women's World Cup tournaments have only been won by 4 different national teams so far, and the current defending champion, the United States, has won 3 out of the 7 competitions. Meanwhile, the South Korean men's national football team is making its final preparations for the upcoming World Cup in Russia. The men's team lost its 2 friendly matches in Europe last month against Poland and Northern Ireland, which showed the head coach Shin Tae-yong where the team needs to improve for the upcoming tournament. South Korea, which is the 2nd lowest ranked participant in the Russian World Cup after Saudi Arabia, is in Group F with Germany, Sweden, and Mexico. Jong-un, Arirang News.
The government aims to step up regional cooperation with neighboring countries to reduce air pollution and improve health quality in East Asia. The Science, Environment and Health Ministries held a joint forum on Tuesday under the theme East Asia Air Pollution and Health. Local experts, along with their counterparts from China, Japan, and Mongolia, discussed ways to tackle the fine dust problem and improve health quality in the region. As fine dust levels are rising every year in East Asia, the 4 nations agreed to strengthen regional cooperation on related research and hold regular forums in the future. Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you'll need. Michelle, as we head into the evening, the fine dust levels are getting worse across the country again. What should we brace ourselves for?
Well, Daniel, the concentration of dust in the central region has also increased. Right now, it's a level considered bad, and the dust that was blown out of the southern regions is now coming back in because the wind has changed directions. And Jeju Island is also looking worse, so try to stay indoors if possible. These high levels of dust will linger through tomorrow, but the Korea and the nearby countries will get plenty of sun tomorrow, except for some parts of Japan. In the morning, Seoul will begin the day with 7 degrees Celsius. Daegu also begins at 7. Gyeongju will be chillier at 5 degrees. Temperature will climb fast, Seoul reaching up to 20 degrees, while Gwangju and Busan will be at 21 and 19 degrees. Later this week, the daily highs will also be more like what we would normally see in mid-May. But with the rain over on Sunday, it'll cool back down but remains on the warm side. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have lined up for tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for watching.